What I want to discuss with you this evening are two things. One is how to find prospects, and two is the power of a story. Last week we discussed how to gain customers and keep them. And the other thing we spoke about last week was, if I remember correctly, just one moment. How to discipline your disappointment. It's very important that we discipline the disappointment that we go through. Everybody will go through disappointment. So learn to discipline your disappointments. And we mentioned a number of things, that having good dreams. Number two is keeping company with positive and people who encourage you to pursue your dreams. So today I want to discuss a very important thing in our business, which is how to get prospects. How do you find prospects? Because our business depends on building a network of people who use our products. The first person who uses our products is yourself. So you need to be a very good and loyal customer of the products. The next person you need to get to use our products are people who are not interested in the business but want to use high quality products. To build a good business, to build a large business now, we need to find prospects who will become product promoters and users like ourselves. In fact, there's a very simple formula for building a large network or for building a large business. That is, we need to have a large group of people doing a few things every day on a consistent and long-term basis. That's really what our business is. Now, how do we find prospects? First, there's a difference between suspects and prospects. Suspects is everybody. Anybody can do this business. Prospects is somebody you've written down on your list and you want to share with them what our business do, or rather you want to educate them on what our business does. So what is the first step of finding a prospect? The first one is write a list of 200. This list. Write the list of everybody you know. The people who you like, the people whom you don't like, write their names down. The people who have told you before that they're not interested in this business at all, write their names down. The people who you've known all your life, write their names down. Are they 18, over 18? Write their names down. Are they 80, 81? Write their names down. Everybody can do this business, but not everybody does this business. So write a comprehensive list of people. The more you write the names off your mind, the more create space in your mind to generate more names. Why? It's called association. When you write the names down of somebody's down, something is triggers in your mind. Okay, this person I've written. Who else do they know? Or let me say you write all the people, your relatives, your friends. The next question is, who do your relatives, who does my cousin know? Who does my uncle know? Your friends, who does my friends know? Your colleagues. So write the names of all the people you know from your phone book and everybody knows. Second step of finding prospects. Use a memory jogger. That means have a simple system that helps you to remember names. Use the alphabet. Or use different professions. Do you know any accountants? Do you know any business people? Do you know any chemists? Do you know any doctors, any engineers, any farmers, any entrepreneurs, housewives, plumbers? All those careers or all those professions, write at least 2 or 3 names in that list of professions, and you will come up with a very, very comprehensive name list. Maybe you won't speak to all those people, but it's important to write their names down on a book, which becomes one of your most important resources. Write everybody that you know. Who do you know? Most likely the people on your phone book. Maybe you've got somebody's phone book and you quite can't remember who that person is. What I found very useful for me is if I meet somebody, I write their names down, but in bracket, I write a description of how we met or what they do. It helps me to remember names easily. For example, if I meet somebody in Kenya, I write the name, their phone number, and then I write a short description of how we met. If I meet somebody at the bank, I write somebody. For example, so I like going to the restaurants to drink a cup of coffee when I want to read and think. Then I write in bracket, Charles, in bracket, Wimpy, Pretoria. So it reminds me of how and where I met them. When you call them, it makes the conversation easier. So write their names, their phone number, and a description of how you met. Number 4, add new names daily to your list. Did you meet somebody today whom you didn't know yesterday? Most likely, yes. So add the names of 2 people every day to your list. If you add 2 people every day, in a week you should have 10 to 14 new people on your list. In a month, you are going to have at least 60 people on your list that will, if you speak to these people, you're likely to get the new people to sponsor into the business. Number 5 is attend networking events to meet new people. What are networking events? For example, if you're a member of, let me say, a sports group or a club, a running club, or you're a member of Toastmasters, or you are a member of a society, whatever it is. For example, if you're a chemist, do they have an association of chemists, an association of pharmacists, an association of farmers, an association of engineers, or your local group, your local church group, or a community group? Go to these meetings deliberately to meet new people. What I have found very useful for me to meet new people is to always walk with business cards in your pocket. It makes the exchange of information and getting people's contact very easy. If you go for a meeting, let me say you go for a networking event, but you don't have a card. When you start talking to people, you share the information and you ask, can I get your phone number? It sounds a bit awkward. But if you have a business card, it's very easy to exchange information. Say, by the way, this is my business card. Do you have a card? Maybe we can speak later about what we do or share information on how we can help each other grow our businesses. So attend networking events just to meet new people. It's very, very important because if you've been in the business longer than 3 months, it's likely that you have exhausted the initial name list. And that's when you start to meet new people. Meeting new people, a very easy way to start conversation with people is to think about, we used to call it FORM. If somebody's family, occupation, recreation, and money needs. Or you can say LOM, location, occupation, recreation, dreams, Lord. Use an acronym to help you remember. If you're going on social media, in fact, social media is what you need to use the LORD acronym. That is location. When you meet somebody on social media, ask, where are you located? I'm based in Pretoria. What about yourself? What do you do? What are recreation? Are you open to look at a way to generate additional income? The social media is a very powerful tool to meet many new people, but you need to know how to navigate in the social media, because it is very tempting to spend hours and hours on social media without actually making steps. I would recommend that, let me say, in a day, put 2 hours aside just to be on social media. Speak to people, start conversations, so that you can get somebody, you can get conversation or chat with somebody, and eventually you're going to pop this question, what do you do? Then they will ask you, by the way, what do you do? You said, oh, I run a distribution business and we train people how to start their own businesses. When you do that, you start a conversation that leads eventually to the question, are you open to look at a way to generate additional income? If they do, you send them information. If they don't, you say, well, thank you very much for knowing you. It's been a great chatting with you on this platform. So the social media is a very powerful tool to meet new prospects. So these are some of the ways to find new prospects. Remember, what is the goal of finding a prospect? The goal of finding a prospect is to educate them on what we do. Eventually, they'll say, yes, I'm interested, or no, I'm not interested. So if you find people, some of them will be interested in the business and some will not be interested. Then the next thing I wanted to chat with you about is the power of stories. When I look back, some of the most profound things that help people to change their life is stories. When Betty and I joined the business, we joined in March 1996. Then I remember in July, we went to Bloemfontein, the first weekend function that we attended, and there were about 4,000 people. And I had story after story after story. And that's what really did it for me. That's when the penny dropped for me. That's when I realized this thing is much bigger than what I'd actually seen in the meetings we had in Pretoria. The kit or the box or the thing, the business kit that comes to the home or that is brought to your house is a very small part of the business. When you go to a big function is when you see part of the business. But the thing that really tips the balance for people, when people actually make the decision to take the business seriously, the stories they hear. Facts tell, stories sell. Why do stories sell? Why do stories really impact people? Because one, people see themselves in the stories they hear. Number two, they conclude that if that person has become successful, I can also become successful, because everybody has a unique story. You will not find two people with the same story. Everybody always attracted by the story. Now, let me go through some of the elements of a good story. Some of the elements of a good story. Number one, a story of profound change. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that when you hear the story of somebody who started from almost nothing, and because of the persistence in the business, this has had a really tremendous story, and I mean a tremendous impact on them. I could give you a very good example. I'm sure most of you in Kenya, you've heard the story of Grace Ngatia. You know, the first time I heard Ngatia's story, I was really moved by that story, because it is a story of starting from the very basic, not knowing what to do, having barely money to pay for rent, and she has become a wealthy member. It's a very powerful story. So the story that has a profound change. The second thing about a good story is that a story of a normal person like you and I, a story of somebody who is not unusually gifted, but somebody who is just as ordinary as yourself. This is what really tips the balance for, because what people say, this guy is just like me. If he can succeed, I also can succeed. So it's a story of a normal human being like you and I. Some of the four elements of a good story are the following. Number one, what was life like before Neolife? How was life before Neolife? Either changing health-wise or a career. I was speaking to a distributor of ours yesterday. She lives in Pretoria, and the products have had such a profound influence in her family's life. Number one, her husband had stroke, and he almost stopped working. He's a lawyer. And she started using the products. Not only did he recover from the stroke, he also went ahead and finished the PhD and is one of the top legal people in South Africa at the moment. Next is her son. Maybe one day I will invite her to share the story. Her son had challenges in school, lack of concentration. Doctors were putting the child on Ritalin, which really makes the child. And she was telling me, look, I don't know who my child is anymore, and I'm almost losing my child. So when we suggested some products, one day she called and said, this morning I woke up and I found my son studying. That has never happened. So there are stories, life-changing stories like that. Then, to tell a good story, how did you encounter new life? Number two, what benefits? Number one is what life was before new life, either health-wise or career-wise. Two, how did you encounter new life? Number three, what benefits have you received from new life, either financially from the business or product-wise from getting fantastic products? And how does the future look like? These four steps are very important in your storytelling, because what it does, you're actually taking your listeners on a journey. Before the business, this is what happened. Life was not easy. When you join the business, the life changed because of using fantastic products, or the life changed because of the money issues, or you have an increased income. Then you describe how you came to join. Somebody called you, or you're not interested initially, or people have got so many different stories on how they joined the business. Betty and I, we took 2 days to decide. It didn't take us long to decide because we were desperate. Number two, our son was ill, and we were desperate for additional income. And the whole business thing made sense to me, or it made sense to us. That's when it took us a very short time to decide. And when we started, we experienced really fantastic benefits in terms of income, but also in terms of the benefit of the products, because our son being having sickle cell, his life has been really improved by using the fantastic products that we have. How does the future look like? The future with the neo life, the future is very, very bright. You need sunglasses to see the future. All these four elements need to be in your story. But something else, if you're speaking to a group of people, you need to emotionally engage your audience. How do you do that? Always talk about the struggles that you have if you're in the business, if you're trying to get people to, for example, if you start a story, you join the business and you're very excited, the only thing you found was success, very few people will connect emotionally with you. But if you talk about the challenges that you endured, if you talk about the difficulties you face when you are in the business, you're likely to connect emotionally with the people in your audience. And then you need to find a sense of integrity. Why is this important? Because people will relate to you better when they sense that this person is authentic. If you're speaking to one person or three or four, always have eye contact. When you have eye contact, people actually, they said that the eyes is the windows of the soul, and that is true. When you have eye contact with people, people tend to trust you. Your level of trust is more than when you don't have eye contact. And then you need to use appropriate you need to have appropriate use, appropriate use of body language. If you're on stage with people, don't stand in one spot. Move around the stage. Number two, use your hands effectively. Use gestures that communicate not only what you're saying, but also what you're not saying. The use of appropriate body language. Talk about the struggles to reach a certain level. I remember when we started the business, I was very, very excited. The first 3 nights I didn't sleep properly because I could see what the business could do for us. And I believed in the principle of duplication. And I remember the first trip that we made outside Pretoria, we were going to do a business presentation in Eswatini, which used to be called Swaziland. We left Pretoria at 6 in the morning, and our sponsor was going to do the presentation. His name was Johannes van Eden. He was a very, very good distributor. I think when he joined, he had just become a 3 Ruby director, and I couldn't believe the income that he was earning. His income was 3 times my salary as an engineer, and that really fired me up. So we drove, we got to the border, and then he calls and says, Pascal, I'm not coming for the meeting. You go and do the presentation yourself. I so frightened. I'd never done a presentation before. And between the border and the capital city, Mbabane, is about 15 kilometers. That is one of the longest journeys I have had because I didn't see how I'm going to present the business. So we go to the place we're doing the presentation. There were 40 guests, and one of my downlines, Joshua Uma, went to the stage and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome the very successful business person from Pretoria." Then he called my name. I went and did the presentation with a lot of fear and trepidation, but I just did what I had remembered in a presentation that was done in Pretoria. I had practiced. I did the presentation, and in that meeting, 10 people joined the business. And that was the start of the rapid growth in our business. So if you start this business, share with your prospect some of the challenges that you go through. Another challenge we had when Betty and I got into the car and drove all the way to Botswana, which is about 370 kilometers from here. And when you go to Gaborone, even our distributor, our downline, who was supposed to be there, did not show up for the meeting. This is what we call a me-show business or presentation. Me-show means even the distributors who were supposed to come for the meeting don't show up. So Betty and I got there. We called our downline. They didn't show up. Eventually, we had breakfast, got into the car, and came back. So those things like that, the challenges that you go through when you're sharing the story with people, is what actually attracts people. Then they know that even these people who do the business and become successful, they also go through challenges, and it's challenges that make people stronger. So just to rewind on the power of stories. Number one, tell stories because they sell, facts don't tell. In fact, most of our presentations, it's the guest who share the story that actually tips the balance for prospects to join the business. The element of a good story, a story of profound change, a story of a normal person like you and I, a story of what life was before we joined Neo Life and what changed, either business, products, health-wise, or career or income generation. Tell the story of how you encountered Neo Life, what benefits you have received, and how you came to join. How does the future look like? Engage emotionally with your audience. It's very important because your audience needs to feel what you felt when you're building the business. Need to have a sense of integrity. That means you need to be authentic about what you're saying. And you need to give stories which are true, not stories which are concocted. Have eye contact with your audience. Use appropriate body language, and share with your audience the struggles that you've gone through to build your business. If you put this element into your story, you will find that stories will be very, very powerful. It will help you get distributors or prospects to join your business, and also inspire your team members. So, ladies and gentlemen, those are the few things Betty and I wanted to share with you this evening. How to find prospects and the power of your story. Use your story as a tool for getting new prospects into their business. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for spending time with Betty and myself. I wish you every success. Monday is the month end. We normally say in our business, it is not over until it's over. So thank you very much. Good night and God bless.